Thanks all for joining. It's 10:05 now, so we'll get started. And as people still trickle in, so happy Thursday to everybody. Thanks again for being here. I hope I'm assuming my audio is well and y'all can hear me. Again, thanks for joining. So I'll just kick us off, and we have a special guest today, or special guests today that Metis from Metis Africa, who will be discussing unveiling what's happening in Africa on the Metis part, and what they plan to do, and how they plan to bring on more builders and communities into Web3 and into Metis so they can take advantage of this digital revolution that's happening. So I'll get us started. I'm Anthony. I'm a co-host here. I'm also a Metis ambassador, along with my two other co-hosts, who I'll pass it over to shortly to introduce themselves. So before I do that, I'm gonna just introduce us all to who's listening to what Metis is, and this is also being recorded and will be posted on YouTube soon, along with all of our other episodes, so people will be able to listen to them and they'll be there for posterity. So Metis is a layer 2 built on Ethereum that is focused on onboarding Web 2 users, builders, and businesses to Web 3. Metis is also leading innovation as a smart L2, which executes near instant transactions and gas fees that cost no more than 1 cent, all while still benefiting from the strong security of Ethereum, features that are very important for the mass adoption of Web2 users and businesses. Furthermore, Metis is incubating an on chain decentralized identity and reputation system called Matrix for trustless collaborations. With this technology, your data and identity will be self sovereign and private. Additionally, with Matrix, Web3 contributors can build on chain resumes through soulbound tokens distributed by dApps using Matrix on Metis. And finally, Metis is also incubating infrastructure for decentralized autonomous companies through what is currently called the DAC portal. Businesses and entrepreneurs will be able to access an aggregation of DAC tools that will provide them the on chain utilities they need to operate a day to day business on the blockchain. And what brings us here today is the unveiling of Metis Africa. And Metis is calling on African builders to harness the power of the Andromeda Network and build innovative and high use case projects. And Metis Africa is building an entire hub for builders and developers in the African space because the time to build is now. And so, with that, I'll pass it over to my co host, Prince. Are you able to speak right now? Or maybe Ali? Oh, go ahead.
Hello, guys. Good evening. Good local time, GM. Good afternoon, whatever time zone you are. Can anyone hear me?
Yeah,
Um,
you're good.
all right, cool. So, thank you very much for that, Anthony. So, this is me saying special welcome to you guys. Another episode of the Metis community space where we come week in, week out consistently, to discuss what's happening in the Metis ecosystem. Thank you very much for always joining us. So today, like Anthony introduced, we're going to be having a talk with the Metis Africa community. Don't mind me that like I sound like I'm secluded. I'm actually part of the Metis Africa community. Yeah, I'm also based in Africa, Nigeria. So, but we're going to be having a representative in form of Nobert, which is the chief of communications for Metis Africa. So we look forward to hear. Recently, the Metis Africa campaign was launched, and Metis is looking to expand its ecosystem borders to Africa, which is long overdue, if you ask me. So we're going to be hearing from Nobert in a short while now. Let's discuss crypto, blockchain, Web3 Metis in Africa. Before then, I would like to pass it to my co-host, Ali, to just give us his brief intro.
Yeah, thank you, Prince. Nice to have you and Anthony on board as well, and our special guest as well. Guys, welcome to our weekly Metis Ambassador space. I am Ali, and I'm co-host of this space with Prince and Anthony, and we do this week in week out. And the purpose is basically to invite projects and protocols, as well as any initiatives around Metis ecosystem, and to discuss the latest happenings in the crypto space as well. So the idea is behind this space is to make this an interactive session, where our listeners can join and share thoughts and learn from the projects firsthand. So, guys, we recently just an update. We recently made some small changes to the structure of this space, and now we cover the crypto news roundup for every week before we invite a distinguished guest on the stage. So today we have Metis Africa team. Really wanted these guys to hop on with us, and because they're doing some amazing stuff, and we wanted to explore their vision. So let's not waste any further time, and let's begin with the news roundup. And after that, we can invite Norbert or any other guy from Metis Africa to speak on their behalf. So again, I wanted to reiterate this is an interactive session. So if you want to share your opinion, thoughts on anything related to crypto, the news we are talking about today, or our efforts in Africa, please feel free to raise your hands, and Anthony or Prince will be happy to have you on board. So guys, the first news we're going to cover today is basically the Fed rate hike that was 75 basis points for the fourth consecutive time this year. This was basically aimed to, as you all know, to combat inflation, and it is currently at a 40-year high in the US. Um, I would say this was actually expected by the crypto experts, and Bitcoin and Ether have held the levels pretty well. And Bitcoin and Ether have done like 2%, 8%, respectively, in the last 7 days. And our favorite Doji coin is up like 100% the past 1 week. So we can say that this was a well received news in the crypto market. Again, another news which is a pretty significant one, I would say, is from the Meta. Meta has basically started to roll out features to allow creators to sell NFTs on Instagram. And this is basically done using the Polygon ecosystem. So a lot of people were, they criticize Polygon as an ecosystem, but I would say that Polygon has one of the best business development teams in the sector. So, getting back to the news, to kickstart this process, Instagram has made some new features available to a select group of creators on its platform. And in the future, more creators will be onboarded. So, as far as the gas fee is concerned, Meta said that there's not going to be any gas fee, but maybe they said there's going to be gas fee in the very beginning. The next news we are going to talking about is JP Morgan. As you know, this is a banking firm which has uh, which has taken a lot of different opinions on Bitcoin in the past 5 years, and sometimes they have completely negated Bitcoin as a currency, and sometimes they have accepted it as a reality as well. The big news is that they have executed their first ever cross-border transaction using a DeFi on a public blockchain. So the purpose is to basically examine how traditional financial institutions can use tokenized assets and DeFi protocols to conduct financial transactions. So if we compare it to the scenario in 2017, guys, we used to wish, as a retail investor, I was personally a part of the herd where we used to wish that some big firm come up, and they can maybe join the crypto frenzy. And I'm so happy and so surprised to have such big platforms now being part of the crypto fraternity. And the next news, which is very much related, the government of Japan has made an announcement. They're basically going to launch a DAO, and they want to develop by developing a DAO. They want to develop an understanding of how organizations can achieve and identify the limitations as per the ministry's minutes of meeting. So, guys, this was our crypto news roundup for the last 1 week. If you have anything to share or any opinions, please feel free to go. Please feel free to raise your hands, and if not, we're gonna go to our distinguished guest from Africa to share more about it. Uh, Anthony, would you like to invite Mr. Norbert on stage, please?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Thanks, Ali. Thanks, Prince. Yeah, so we just want to pass it over to Metis Africa now, the representatives that are here. And we'll start with Norbert. So thanks for joining us. Thanks for being here. Um, and maybe you can just start by introducing yourself, what you do at Metis, and then maybe introduce Metis Africa and what the plans are that you have in store.
Hello, guys. Nice to talk on these awesome spaces, especially with our ambassadors to discuss what's happening in the space, talk about BTS in general, talk about our current expansion in Africa, and what the future holds for BTS in Africa. Yes, my name is Norbert Amankwa Dumakon, the Communications and Africa Lead for Metis DAO Foundation. Of course, I'm the popular guy in the community, of course, yes. And yeah, so I've been with Metis managing all communications from inside, communications from outside, and communications within the community. And we have been with Metis for 2 years now and some months, and currently we want to expand to Africa. We have noticed the biggest potential here in Africa, and Metis is in a big position to claim a fair share of the many unbanked people in Africa and how much the space is growing. Take you back to 2020 June to 2021 July, we we saw the African crypto market increase about 21,000%. That's huge in the space, and we expect this figure to double by 2025. And I believe this is one thing Metis cannot stand and wait for. We could barge into the developer market here in Africa, see what startups are coming up, drive them to the Metis ecosystem. And it's quite fascinating to learn that even the current volume of blockchain trading, crypto trading on Binance, most of it is from Africa, especially from Nigeria and South Africa. And yes, there's many potentials for crypto projects here in Africa. So that is the main focus for starting this expansion. It has been the team's idea, and with already the network here with the startups, with the developer community, with the student blockchain societies, with the blockchain societies, non-blockchain societies, Web2 companies. We have a good network of people and projects that we hope to bring to the Metis ecosystem. So this expansion is mainly to drive adoption for Metis in Africa, to increase the user base, and to get local projects onto our ecosystem. And we are doing this with many initiatives. One of such is supporting local developer communities in many forms, in terms of providing the support in funding for local startups. By the way, I just finished talking at the crypto event about 20 minutes ago, and so it's a bit noisy here. So forgive me if you hear some sounds at the background. Yeah, and so we are putting many initiatives, starting with the support for the builders, that's the builder community here in Africa. And it's quite interesting because we've seen many projects coming up in the African blockchain ecosystem. And even today, I got many projects interested in what Metis is building, and I'll have a follow up with my team and see how best we can get them onto our ecosystem. So the general idea is to expand to Africa, is to reach out to the many unbanked users here in Africa to get startups that are facing challenges to find a home at Metis, to find a home for their users, to find a home for their protocols. And so that is what we are building. And the second objective, the second initiative for this expansion is to reach out to the student blockchain and student computer science communities. We believe the next generation of developers obviously comes from these colleges, and it's high time we targeted them, we reached out to them, we provided them with our services. And of course, one way or the other, we could have projects coming from these institutional hackathons. Of course, we are going to have institutional hackathons across many African countries. So we unveiled the Metis Africa back in Cape Town last month. That was our first event and our first launch. That's a public launch for the community. And it's quite fascinating that just 2 weeks after this unveiling, we had a ruling from the South African Financial Service Conduct Authority that they are actually approving or allowing crypto services to operate in SA. And this is a big step towards adoption in Africa, especially in South Africa. South Africa is quite a big country, a big contributor of global GDP, and Johannesburg in particular contributes around 20% of the entire African GDP. It's quite a good country for tech. We have a lot of developers and startups coming up from South Africa. And so we see this as an opportunity. We see this as a way to drive in adoption. And I'm even happy having most of our ambassadors currently being Africans, especially the Nigerian crypto community. Nigeria has been a big contributor to the growth of blockchain in Africa. They contribute a lot of liquidity, contribute a lot to the developer community, and also contribute. They are almost everywhere. And that is the focus for Metis in Africa. We will see acceleration here. And of course, we will be giving regular updates. We've lined all our social media, that's Twitter, we have our LinkedIn, we have our own Medium, we have Instagram, all social media available. You could follow us for updates from Metis Africa. Thanks, Anthony.
Thank you very much for that, Norbert. Thank you very much for that. I was going to shout, tell them when we're talking about, Nigeria being one of the biggest liquidity pushers, we're not small. All right, thank you very much for that. I definitely look forward to what, how what the future holds for Metis in Africa. I mean, we love to connect, love to see, the expansion. We talk about onboarding Web 2 to Web 3. And I think Metis coming to Africa is just one of those huge steps that, are needed. We need to get more tech, more businesses, more tech, businesses on in Africa here onto the blockchain tour. And, that's what Metis Africa is here for. So, quick question, yeah. Okay, let me just hold that up. I think Jonex is also on the speaker list, so let's just hear from Jonex. Jonex, are you here with us?
Good evening, everyone.
Yeah, good evening.
Okay, I'm Jonas. I'm a Metis African ambassador. Yeah, I'm from Nigeria too, Prince.
All right, yeah,
One
that's
of
that's great. That's great. I don't know. I think
yeah,
maybe you might. Can you adjust from where you are? There's a lot of
yeah.
interference from you.
It's a bit noisy. Yeah. Okay, so I just want to appreciate what we are all doing. On this place and everything. And then yes, for Metis Africa, as we all know, we just launched. So I'm looking forward to what the future holds for us, and then we're trying our best to do whatever it takes for everyone, every crypto enthusiast in Africa to get to know about Metis and build on our platform. So I will just ask for our support as ambassadors. Let everyone know, yes, that we are here and then we are here to stay. Thank you, everyone. I I hope everyone heard me.
Yes, yes, we heard you clearly, even though the interference from your audio was
I'm
a
I'm
little bad, but we
I'm so
heard
sorry.
you. Yeah,
I'm so
it's no
sorry, guys.
problem. It's no problem. Thank you very much for that. We also look forward. I mean, like I said, I'm also part of the African community. Yeah, though one of the global ambassadors, but still African, always African. Yeah, and I look forward to also building with the Metis, the Metis Africa Hub. So quick question to Nobet. All right. So Nobet, with the recent launch of Metis in Africa, yeah. So what are the how do I put it now? Like the next go-to steps now that we should be looking and expecting from the African community, like events, what are we looking forward to, workshops, etc. How is the what are the plans to start building, the Metis Africa community, and how can people be part of it?
Yes, yes, yes. That's a very good question. I think definitely I would have talked about in this particular speech. Yeah, so one thing that we are focused on is to make Metis known in Africa. And we've launched, of course, last month. The next big steps is to make sure that we have the recognition here in various African countries. That is the basic step, that is the recognition. Once we are officially recognized and known, of course, we have started gaining the recognition in the likes of Nigeria, likes of South Africa, Ghana, Zambia, Kenya. We have ambassadors here and people here always representing Métis at events. And we have many initiatives, of course, to accelerate the user base expansion that I talked about. Just so we are going to have many events with blockchain societies, especially with the student blockchain clubs. These are all in plan for our 2023 global, that's the Metis Global Growth Plan for Africa. So we are going to have a lot of events. We have another event in Johannesburg in South Africa in March coming 2023. I'll be there again to talk to these blockchain startups to get them onto our network. And so these are all part of the plans that we have. Not only events, but workshops. So currently, I'm in search for an African based developer, an African based tech guy to lead in this acquisition. I have the basics in, of course, developing, blockchain developing, but we need an actual tech guy to help with our workshops to get the project on board. I have many applications currently, and I'm reviewing their track records and the products that they've built. Once we have the perfect candidate, we can start execution of the workshops, that's technical workshops, to computer engineers, computer science students, and the computer blockchain societies across many African universities. That's another plan to get a tech guy onto the Metis Africa team. And yes, we are going to have local meetups, not only in specific countries. The target is to have recognition in all African countries. So we are going to hold meetups for the various countries. So Nigerians will have their meetups. We have meetups in Zambia. We have meetups in Mozambique, in Rwanda. Any and every African country, we see it as a good opportunity to have a Metis meetup. Metis will take care of that. Metis Africa is there to support our own user meetup. So the best thing about Metis is that we are individual centric. The whole construction that we are building for Web3 is centered on the individuals to empower how individuals thrive in this space. And so we are individual centric, and we look forward to make our network a friendly home for builders, for the community. So these are all the initiatives, with the having the tech guy to support in workshops, having the meetups, being at events, and also having a business development team. That is a strong business development team to get these blockchain startups, blockchain projects onto our ecosystem. We already have a few in line. In the next couple of days, we will announce our own partnerships with projects that we've met, discussed, and collaborated with. And I think that's a very good start. Of course, we are gaining a lot of grounds here in Africa. And yeah, thanks, Prince. That's the initiative that we set up.
Yeah, thank you very much for that. You really gave good insight into that. I mean, while you were talking, I was already should I say, writing down in my head the next questions to ask you. But then before I finish compiling it in the head, you already answered that. That was really good. I mean, I look forward to seeing more, more of Metis network, in other African countries, hearing of meetups, workshops, summits. And one thing also is Metis is also very big on education. Yeah, we are very big on educating the space, to educating the ecosystem while we on board. That's why one of our core values are onboarding Web2 into Web3. We build a hub to bring in people with ease. Yeah, and that's really good initiative with that. I really look forward. I mean, for one, I look forward to the meetings. Should I say meetup or workshop in Nigeria here? Honestly, I wouldn't miss it for anything. Thank you very much for that. Thank you very much for that, Norbert. So I don't know if Anthony or Ali have something for you. And also, guys, before I go, also it's an open space. You know how I say it. You know how we do it. Feel free to come up, say something. If you have questions, contributions to add, please feel free to request the mic. So, Ali, I see your mic muted.
Yeah, Prince, thank you. And Norbert, that was very insightful statements. I think you guys are doing some great job in Africa to create awareness about the Metis, its potential, and the ecosystem, especially harnessing the power of workshops. I think that would be a great start. Since Metis vision is to onboard the next billion users on board, and I think this could not be done any much perfectly. I would say it's a great start. Norbert, as I see, as you also mentioned, and I was also going through your Twitter profiles, you guys seem pretty busy with events and summits, and doing, as I said, a great job about creating the awareness about the Matis ecosystem. How do you think? What is the atmosphere like in the GCD summit you are currently part of, and the Ghana summit last month, where you guys joined hands to represent Metis ecosystem? Since this is a bear market, and people may think that there may not be a lot of people interested, but I wanted to hear it from the horse's mouth. How do you think things are cooking in Africa?
Thank you for the question. And that's a very interesting question. And I believe these two events that we represented has been very welcoming. We saw a great deal of interest in our tech. We met with many projects. We had many users interested in joining our ecosystem. And so, although the market is sloppy, you could call it a bear market, but we are really gaining grounds. That's not a talk of just the mouth, it's evident. At the event centers, we get the most users coming to our booths. That happened in South Africa, Cape Town, and happened today too at the GCD event. Our booths, because of our graphics, because of our merchandises, because of everything that we provide, is one thing that attracts people. Once they get to our booths, we make them understand what we are building, and they get interested. Not only users, but even projects that came with their sole purpose of selling their businesses. They tend to like what Metis is doing. So we are gaining grounds here, and the target is to move out of this current market condition with a big user base, with many projects in our ecosystem. And that is one thing that we are working on. We are not putting our hands down. We are putting up maximum efforts to make sure that as many of these projects as possible join our ecosystem, so that when there is a next bull run, you could put it that way, we could have a much booming ecosystem.
Awesome. That's amazing to hear. And thank you for everything you've shared, Norbert, and everyone else who's spoke so far. It's good to learn about this development, this Metis development that's happening in Africa. That's more than just about onboarding people strictly onto Metis, but just into Web3 and bridging the digital divide that so many communities across the world face, including community that I'm from. Like, we're not totally tech savvy. We don't have access to the most equipment or devices or knowledge or experience with technology, and it's something that I think that to be addressed and needs to be like helped out with for many people across the entire planet. No matter what country you're in or continent, it's happening everywhere. And so I think this is really cool with what's happening in Africa with Metis Africa. And so I think a question, actually, I seen somebody else came up to speak. Send digits. I'm not sure if you wanted to say anything.
Yeah, I have a question for Norbert. Good evening, guys. Can you hear me, guys?
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Norbert, I have a question. My question goes thus: Is Metis only for projects on the Ethereum network, or projects on other chain can integrate Metis onto their? Can other projects be integrated onto Metis Andromeda network?
Okay, sure. So Metis is EVM equivalent, similar to the EVM chain for Ethereum. Any protocol that you build on Ethereum can be built on Metis. And of course, currently we have multi-chain projects. Not only do you have to be an Ethereum-based project, you can be on other chains and be a multi-chain project. So we are open to any other project, regardless of the blockchain you are on. As far as you want to be on Metis, you could make it multi-chain. If you don't want to be strictly on Metis, you could go multi-chain. And yes, we have current projects on our ecosystem that are multi-chain. Yes, so we are welcoming all projects across all blockchains or networks. Yeah,
All right, thank you very much.
you're welcome, say.
Awesome. I see Prince is. I think he accidentally fell off, so he's coming back on. Um, but yeah. So, oh, go, Ali. You saying something? Go ahead.
Yeah, awesome, Norbert. Thank you very much for the insightful explanation. Uh, since you talked about the adoption and in Metis Africa, and you, I guess, mentioned like a figure of 21,000% in of increase in adoption in Africa as far as blockchain and crypto sector is concerned. What do you? Just a quick question I wanted to ask. Is what do you think are some of the factors that can really fuel up this fire in future as well? Because I've been hearing this a lot that Africa could be the next crypto hub. Uh, so I wanted to know your thoughts.
Yes, I believe one of the major factors that is going to influence African adoption for blockchain is the many unbanked citizens here in Africa. We have more than 57% of Africans that are unbanked. This is a very huge number. looking at the continent population here in Africa. And that is what blockchain is targeting. People that do not need banks to access financial services. So currently we have blockchain banking apps. You could access banking services with your blockchain app. And so that's a very good, I mean, a very good point to consider when penetrating the African market. We have a large unbanked users here in Africa. And the next thing is escaping regulations, escaping economic hardships. Blockchain is giving the opportunity for users, for citizens to have their own ways of doing things. And that is what people really want. I believe users don't want to be in bondage anymore. They want to have control over their own assets. Coming to Africa, most African countries have issues with land demarcations, and having solutions like having land records on the blockchain, which is immutable. I think these are some of the solutions that blockchain is providing to the African problems that we believe can fuel adoption. These and many more factors are what we consider Africa as being the next hotspot for blockchain projects.
Awesome, Robert. Norbert, since you talked about uh, most of the unbanked in Africa, I want to talk about another thing which I think is also pretty prevalent in my country as well. That is basically the wealth preservation and wealth building. Uh, I don't know about how it works in Africa, but since COVID, there's been a huge rise in inflation rates all over the world, and we particularly have been affected by that as well. So when we talk about crypto and blockchain, this basically helps to preserve the wealth as well, because the amount of money I kept like in my bank in the last like 2 years back is now worth half of what it should have been. So I think this applies to African countries as well. What do you think, Norbert?
Yes, yes, yes. That's also a good factor with wealth preservation. And not only is it happening in your country, many countries are facing this particular problem, especially in this era, in this economic turmoil, if I could put it that way. A lot of inflation, and so crypto is somehow serving as a hedge. And this is a good advantage to people who are hedging with their crypto assets against the traditional fiat depreciation. And that is also a good factor which could influence the adoption of blockchain, because all these financial crisis that we are facing, to me, is an advantage to blockchain, because it really explains the failing system of the traditional ways of the economy, and this can really give birth to new ways of doing things, which blockchain has already taken the lead on. And yeah, this is a way to hedge against inflation. Mhm.
So the reason basically I asked is because this question is a bit personal as well, because I thought that since I am being affected, and maybe it applies to the African colleagues as well. What do you think about the big institutional investors or traders in Africa? I've learned that there's more uh, demand from the retail investors in Africa. And secondly, I wanted to ask about the government regulations when it comes to Africa. How's the government responding to the rise of crypto in Africa? Since you mentioned that it has risen to about 25,000% in the last 1 or 2 years, I think government maybe must be paying attention to you guys. Norbert.
That's also a good question. It's quite interesting to learn that African tech startups drove in a big and massive investments from the West and East and from the VCs. And out of this, we had more than 60% of such an investment going into blockchain startups. So the big question here is how and what did these VCs see about African blockchain tech? There's something they know that we don't know. And so yeah, it's interesting that African startups are driving in this kind of investment. And I believe these projects are going to thrive, they are solving real problems, and they are going to contribute to the entire space. Talking about regulations in Africa and the government, I stated earlier about South African Financial Service Conduct Authority ruling just last 2 weeks, which has given authority, which are giving the go ahead for crypto projects to provide services in South Africa. This is not only the country that has done so. We have seen many other countries with the likes of Ghana. I heard the Bank of Ghana, the assistant director of Bank of Ghana or something, spearheading the research into regulations and looking at how blockchain is really contributing to the market. I doubt there will be any strict regulations. All regulations could be likened to what has happened to the South African crypto community. And currently, not many countries have set up their regulations, but crypto operations are underway in all most African countries. Yes, if I could put it that way.
Awesome, awesome. Robert, thank you very much for explaining the entire crypto atmosphere in the African atmosphere sphere. I just a quick question I wanted to ask about is how do you see the future of crypto and blockchain in Africa in the next 3 to 4 years? Uh, do you see any dynamics that could, really help crypto gain faster adoption? Since the rate you mentioned is already very surprising to me. But do you think the government interest may help fuel the adoption in future?
Okay, sure. So, one thing that I know is that the future for blockchain here in Africa is very bright. Looking at the forecast that the current African crypto community is likely to double by 2025. And that is a huge number if we talk in terms of the liquidity and the volume that we provide into the space. Not only that, but looking at the number of startups, blockchain startups that are coming and the kind of investment that are driving in. These are startups that are building in Africa. And so they are going to contribute to the problem solving for the African problems, the solutions they are providing for the African problems. And so there is a very big future for blockchain in Africa. For me and the government and the regulations, as I stated, I see no strict regulations for crypto or the blockchain projects here in Africa. And yes, let me reiterate that I see the likes of the likes of what happened in South Africa to also happen in most African countries, where opportunity is given for crypto projects to operate without strict regulations.
Thank you, Norbert. I think I had all my share of questions answered by you, and I must say that you being the communications guy really know your job. Again, I wanted to ask anyone from community if you have any questions. Now's the time to raise your hands. We have this valuable guy who is also attending the GCD summit as of now, but he's available to answer your questions. So I suggest you guys take this opportunity. Prince, are you with us? Do you have any questions, or Anthony, if you have any questions? I guess yes,
Yeah,
Anthony is here.
yeah, yeah. No, I thought I saw Prince go on mute. But yeah, one question that I had is there anything you kind of said it already, but I'm wondering if there's anything like specific happening in Africa right now that piques your interest or that you're excited about. You kind of mentioned that there's like a lot of startups, there's a lot of investments going on, and that you think that government regulations, if and when they do come, will be favorable to innovation in crypto and blockchain in Africa. So I'm wondering if there's anything specific happening right now that excites you, that you can't wait to see what like it develop like in the next few years, whether it's a project or even something like maybe a way people are thinking or what's happening. Like you said, there's so many unbanked people, so this is benefiting them. Like of any of and all these, like, is there anything that's exciting you the most that's happening and that you're hoping Metis Africa could help develop out there?
That's a very interesting question. And yes, I went to a Binance meetup event just to meet up with the Binance country manager and discuss possible collaboration with Metis. One interesting thing is that the number of sign-ups for the event, which was quite normal, but during the event we had almost triple that number attending without registration. That really talks a lot. People are really interested in the space, and people are learning on the streets. And that is one thing we should really take note of, the growing interest in blockchain in Africa. And of course, my team and I, we are not going to let that die out. We are going to follow up, get Metis her fair share of such a market. Not only the interest in the people, but the number of projects that are coming out. These projects are really solving issues. One project I met today is solving agricultural issues in, is it Mozambique or one of the African countries. This is a real use case, and they are really getting the support from the community. They have government network that is interested in supporting such an initiative. And so not only are we growing, we are also growing with actual products. We are also growing with actual problem solving protocols. And yeah, the interest is there. What we need to do is to get our shoes on, get a better stance, provide the infrastructure. That's what Metis is about, building the infrastructure to empower Web3. And within a year or two, getting back to this particular space, we could see the milestone and achievements of Metis, especially in Africa.
Amazing, amazing. That's exciting to hear about the rapid expansion in just one conference. You're seeing more and more, so much interest, and I think that that's what's happening across the world. And I mean, it's only a matter of time where, like, for the example that you said at the conference, how interest just grew and so many people just came like just out of nowhere. That's what's happening, and that's what's gonna continue happening. And before we know it, like, this technology is gonna be part of our everyday lives. And right now, it's kind of like the struggle to with like the traditional financial world, the traditional way of social organizations, whether it's government or corporations. Like, all of this is being disrupted with this technology and the people that are offering these new ideas and these new ways to organize society and finance and everything and value. And so people have to wrestle with what this means and how do we even do it and how we do it properly. So that's exciting to hear, and really appreciate that, in hearing about what's going on, just out right there in Africa, and it's promising to hear. But um, I think I guess one thing I would like to know, you are the comms lead in Metis, and wondering if there's anything you can share that's happening in Metis that's coming up. I know next week is the 1 year anniversary, so just wanted to see if you wanted to share anything on that, or any maybe any
Yeah, so of course, we happy anniversary, pre-anniversary to Andromeda. It's been an awesome 1 year of experiencing one of the fastest and cheapest network in the entire space. We are going to have a lot of exciting community activities that will be rewarding the community with their NFT badges, anniversary NFT badges, among others. So, not to give a lot of information, I think we will be announcing that in the coming days, and so the community should stay tuned.
Awesome. Well, now we could say you heard it here first. um, yeah. So appreciate the time that you've given us and everything you've shared. Does anybody wanna have anything to ask or add to what's been shared so far? And if not, we're almost at our time, and so maybe we could just leave it to last words, and then we'll see each other next week during the 1 year anniversary. So yeah, Norbert, would any last final things you'd like to leave us with?
Yeah, so my final words is just words of encouragement and appreciation to the community support, especially our ambassadors, to continue supporting meetings. We are building an infrastructure and we are not stopping. Our team is very committed, one of the strongest team I've seen so far in the space. And yeah, we will have a lot of updates in the coming weeks, a lot of exciting innovations coming. As you know, we have new engineers working on ZK proof technology, and that is very exciting. So, yeah, happy pre anniversary to Andromeda, and we hope to have the community with us during the events in the coming days. Thank you very much, guys, and have a good evening.
Thank you, Robert. Norbert, sorry, I mispronounced your name again and again. Uh, I think that this was one of the most insightful sessions we had. Uh, Again, talking about, as you mentioned, about the ZK Tech, uh, I think this is going to be a huge development for Metis ecosystem as a whole. And this basically means that we are not just an optimistic roll up, we are basically taking the best of the best from both the optimistic and ZK roll up and combining it up. And I guess this is going to make Metis juggernaut in the coming few months or years to come. So thank you, Anthony, and thank you, Norbert. We really love to have you had you today, and it was a great session. We look forward to see you next week. Celebrating the anniversary and sharing updates with us as well. And again, everyone, thank you very much, and hope to see you guys in the next week. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Have a great weekend.